There's a particular kind of fear that doesn't hit you all at once. It doesn't startle you with a loud noise or make you jump out of your seat. It's a lot more subtle than that. It creeps in bit by bit until you realize your body is reacting in ways you don't understand. That's what reading Pet Sematary by Stephen King felt like for me. I didn't get a lot of jumps. There weren't any moments that made me shout or leap out of my chair, but I noticed something strange. I kept holding my breath. My shoulders were creeping up to my ears and my heart rate was shooting up. And it wasn't until after the fact that I realized this book was doing something to me. Something beyond just telling a story. It was making me feel. As a librarian, I spend a lot of time thinking about how stories work, how they shape our thoughts and emotions. But this one was different. It wasn't just a story that made me think. It made me feel something I couldn't quite place. And I kept wondering, why was this affecting me the way that it was? In his book, Danse Macabre, Stephen King discusses the nature of horror, and he describes it as an emotion, a feeling of revulsion or dread evoked by something unnatural or by a violation of the natural order of things. What struck me about this wasn't just the definition, but how it frames horror as something that happens not just in the world of the story, but in you, the reader, as you experience it. So it's not just what happens in the narrative, but about the emotional journey you're taken on while you're reading it. And once I started thinking about it that way, I could finally pinpoint what had been making me so tense. It was something I hadn't quite felt before, but it was definitely something real. King says that horror can be broken down into 3 distinct types. So let's walk through that together. Imagine you're sitting in a car parked right outside your house late at night. The engine's off, everything's quiet. You're just about to go inside when you notice something really odd. The door to your house is slightly open, but you're sure you closed it before you left. So you sit there and you stare at it, and nothing's happening. The door still isn't moving and no one's coming out. But the silence starts to feel really heavy, and your mind starts to race, and you're filling in all these blanks faster than you can stop it. It's not about what's happening right now, it's the fear of the unknown. And that's terror, the feeling of impending doom when you don't know what's coming, but you still know it's coming. So after a few moments, you get out of the car, you walk up to the door and you push it open and you step inside. And you can't quite place it, but the air suddenly feels unnatural. And then you see it. This is horror, when that tension collapses into something real. You see something in the hallway that doesn't quite fit. And at first, your brain tries to rationalize it. Maybe it's a shadow or a coat on a rack. But then it starts to move and it's distorted in a way you can't explain. Which finally brings us to the gross out. This is the kind of horror that makes your body react instinctively before you even have a chance to process it. It's when whatever is standing in the hallway is so grotesque in every possible way, in the way that it moves, the way its limbs bend at impossible angles, or how its skin barely clings to its bones. That's when you feel it in your gut, that immediate visceral reaction and that involuntary no. And that's what the gross out is. It's the horror that makes you physically recoil. Once I started seeing these kinds of horror play out in the story, I couldn't ignore it. Pet Sematary builds his horror really slowly, almost unnoticed, until it's too late. And it wasn't about cheap scares or gore, quite as much as it was something much deeper, I think. Without any spoilers, Pet Sematary is about a family that moves to this quiet, remote house in Maine. And it's one of those places where you start to feel how isolated you are from everything else. And there's this busy road nearby, and people keep warning them about it. And behind the house, there's a pet cemetery hidden in the woods. It feels really old, like it's been there a lot longer than everything else has, but there's also this very unsettling sense that neither they nor the cemetery quite belong. What's really exciting is that the real terror in Pet Sematary isn't just about these eerie things that are happening around them. It's actually about the choices people make when they're up against things they can't control, when they're forced to confront grief, loss, and the unknown, and the lengths they'll go to because of the people they love. What gets even more interesting is that in the foreword to this novel, Stephen King shares how the book was actually inspired by a real-life experience. He and his family actually lived near a busy road with trucks constantly speeding past. And near their house was actually a pet cemetery where their cat was buried. And one day, King's youngest son ran toward the road just as a truck came barreling down, and King just managed to catch his son in time. That chilling experience led him to ask, what if something terrible actually happened? I can't imagine the terror of losing a child. It's such a primal and raw fear, and it's almost impossible to really comprehend. But I think King understands it because he lived through that moment when his son ran toward the road, and it shook him to his core. And that fearful what if is at the heart of the novel. He said that Pet Sematary was the scariest book he had written at the time, and I can totally see why. It's not just about the threat of something happening, but it's about the terrifying possibilities that arise when we're forced to reckon with what we would do in a moment of loss. Jump scares make you flinch. Gross out moments turn your stomach. But terror lingers. It builds slowly in the quiet moments, in the spaces in between. And that's what had me holding my breath the whole time. It's not about the quick shocks, but it's that constant gnawing feeling of unease that never lets go in the entire story. Before you go, I'm curious, what is that one book for you? The one that actually made you hold your breath or physically tense up? Also, since I just finished the book, I'm debating if I should watch the film adaptations because I've been hearing a lot of mixed things. There's a 1989 version and a 2019 version. If you've watched these and read the book, please let me know in the comments what you think I should watch first or if it's worth just skipping them entirely. Next week, I'll dive into part 2, where we'll explore another Stephen King book with that same creeping emotional terror and without any spoilers in case you want to read it after. If this video gave you a little spark today, liking it really helps a small creator like me. And if you enjoy finding stories to help you articulate experiences you don't quite have the words for yet, I would love to have you subscribe. Thank you so much for hanging out in the stacks with me today, and I will see you in the next chapter.